Everyone thought we were celebrating love. But what I was about to reveal would change everything. That night, the room was full of laughter. People clinking glasses, smiling, calling us the perfect couple. That my name's Daniel Carter. Small-town guy with a simple life, simple dreams. I'm not the kind of man who plays games or keeps secrets. I grew up believing that love, real love, was about honesty, loyalty, and trust. But if anyone had looked closely, really looked, they might have seen it in my eyes. That quiet storm I was holding back. Because what they didn't know was that this celebration was built on lies. I first met Jessica at a college volunteer event. It was one of those ordinary days that turns into a story you never forget. She had this warmth, a kind of energy that drew people in without her even trying. I was helping set up tables for a food drive when she showed up late, breathless. With that laugh that made everyone stop and listen, she walked straight over, smiled, and said, "You look like someone who actually knows what he's doing." I remember laughing, and somehow, that simple moment turned into hours of talking. Jessica wasn't just beautiful. She was smart, funny, and ambitious. And after a long stretch of loneliness, after years of thinking love wasn't meant for me, she made me believe again. It felt instant, real, like life was finally giving me a second chance. We fell hard and fast. Road trips down the coast. Movie nights where we never finished the film. Silly inside jokes that made no sense to anyone else. People said we looked like we belonged in a movie. Even our proposal video went viral among friends. Her laughing, me shaking, the crowd cheering. It was everything love is supposed to be. Loud, beautiful, full of hope. And when we started planning the wedding, it felt like we were building something sacred. Jessica took charge of every detail, the venue, the colors, even the playlist. I loved watching her in her element. She was confident, decisive, unstoppable. But somewhere along the way, something shifted. She started needing control over everything, and everyone. At first, I thought it was just stress. Wedding planning can make anyone a little crazy, right? But soon, it became more than that. Her phone was always upside down. She started taking late work calls, the kind that ended when I walked into the room. And when I'd ask about it, she'd smile, that same charming smile that could melt any doubt. "You worry too much, Daniel," she'd say. "It's just work." I promise. I wanted to believe her. I did believe her, because love does that. It makes you trust even when something deep inside is whispering, "Don't." Then one night I saw a message pop up on her phone. It was short, but it felt like my heart stopped when I read it. "Can't wait to see you again." I froze. Jessica looked up from across the room, realized what I'd seen, and laughed. "Oh my God, that's just a coworker. We joke around all the time." She said it so casually, like it was nothing. And I wanted to believe it was nothing. But for the first time, her laugh sounded rehearsed. That night, I barely slept. I kept replaying everything in my head. The late calls, the phone turned over, the business trips. Maybe I was overthinking. Maybe love was making me paranoid. The next morning, I told my best friend Ryan about it. He's known me since high school, the kind of friend who doesn't sugarcoat things. He listened quietly, then said, "Man, if you have to question her this much, maybe there's a reason." I hated that sentence. Because deep down, I knew he might be right, but I wasn't ready to give up. Not on her. Not on us. So I decided to push that doubt away and focus on the wedding. After all, love means trust, right? A week later, Jessica asked me to help with her laptop. She was organizing music for the wedding reception and needed me to sync some files. I was sitting beside her, watching her scroll through folders, playlists named Ceremony, Dinner, Dance. Then she got a call. She stood up saying, "Give me a sec, babe," and stepped out of the room. The call went on longer than usual. I remember staring at the screen, my hand hovering over the mouse. That's when I saw it. A small hidden folder tucked between the others. The name caught my eye immediately. Voice notes. Something about it didn't feel right. It wasn't part of the wedding files. And there was this strange chill in my stomach, like my body knew something my mind didn't. For a few seconds, I just sat there, debating with myself. Do I open it? Do I walk away? But curiosity has a way of pulling you in when your heart's already suspicious. I clicked once. The folder opened. And what I saw made my chest tighten. Dozens of audio files. All titled with dates. All recent. Right then, Jessica's voice floated from the hallway, still on the phone, laughing softly. I looked back at the screen, at that folder sitting open, waiting. And in that moment, everything inside me whispered one thing. Something's not right. I closed the laptop just before she walked back in. She smiled, asked if everything was working. I smiled back. But something in me had already changed, because I didn't see my fiancée anymore. I saw a mystery I wasn't sure I wanted to solve. That's when I realized. Love can look perfect right before it cracks. And that was the moment I knew whatever was hiding behind that folder was about to change everything. They say curiosity can destroy love. That night, mine didn't destroy it. It revealed what had already been broken. I tried to sleep. I really did. But that folder, voice notes, kept echoing in my mind like a whisper I couldn't silence. The more I tried to ignore it, the louder it called to me. So, sometime past midnight, I gave in. I opened my laptop, plugged in my headphones, and clicked on the first file. Jessica's voice filled my ears, soft, calm, almost too familiar. She sounded like she was talking to someone close. Someone she trusted. "Hey Mark, I can't stop thinking about you," she said, laughing under her breath. "He still thinks I'm in love with him. After the wedding, I'll figure it out." My hands froze. For a second, I thought I'd misheard. But then, the next message played. Her voice again, teasing, intimate. "Don't worry. It's just a few more weeks. He's so clueless, it's almost funny." I pulled the headphones out like they burned me. The silence that followed was louder than her voice. My heart felt heavy, not angry, not yet. Just hollow. Like something inside me had quietly broken. I sat there in the dark, staring at the screen. Dozens of recordings, each stamped with dates that lined up perfectly with every late work night. I clicked on another one. I don't even know why. Maybe I was hoping it would prove me wrong. "You should have seen him today," she said. "He's so excited, he has no idea what's really going on." That one hit different. It wasn't just betrayal. It was mockery. Every "I love you" she'd said to me flashed through my mind. Every kiss. Every plan, every promise. I wanted to stop listening. But I couldn't, because part of me needed to know just how deep the lie went. And the more I listened, the clearer it became. I wasn't marrying the woman I loved. I was marrying an illusion she built. I leaned back in my chair, feeling everything inside me collapse. It's strange how betrayal doesn't explode. It just sinks in, slowly, like a quiet storm. The tears didn't come right away. Instead, there was this numbness. Like my body was trying to protect me from feeling it all at once. I started remembering everything, the sudden urgent meetings, the time she'd come home smelling like a different cologne, the night she'd smile but her eyes looked distant. They all replayed like pieces of a puzzle I'd been too blind to see. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't paranoid. I was right, and that realization hurt more than the lie itself. How long had she been planning this? Why go through with the wedding at all? Questions filled my head, but no answers came. For the first time I realized I wasn't losing her. I'd already lost her. The next day, I called Ryan. My voice cracked when I told him what I'd found. He didn't speak for a full minute. Then he said, "You can't let her walk you down that aisle, bro. You can't." I expected him to explode, to curse, to tell me to cancel everything. But I didn't want chaos. I didn't want revenge and anger. I wanted truth. If lies can echo in secret, I told him, then the truth deserves to echo louder. Ryan knew that tone in my voice, calm, focused, dangerous. He didn't argue. He just said, "Whatever you're planning, make sure she never forgets it." I didn't sleep that night either. But this time, it wasn't heartbreak keeping me up. It was clarity. Jessica wanted to perform perfection in front of everyone, friends, family, the world. So I'd let her. I'd let her have her moment, her stage, her audience. And then, I'd let her own voice reveal who she really was. It wasn't rage driving me anymore. It was peace, cold, deliberate peace. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't shouting the truth. It's letting it play itself. So I started planning. I copied the voice messages onto a small Bluetooth speaker I'd bought a few months earlier for our engagement party. And then I wrote my rehearsal speech, one filled with love, gratitude, and memories. But this time, the ending wouldn't be mine. It would be hers. Tomorrow, I whispered to myself, everyone will hear the woman they think they know. The sun was rising when I finally stood up from my desk. I walked over to the window and watched the light crawl across the sky. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't even sad. I just felt done. People think revenge has to be loud, that it's about destruction or payback. But it's not. Sometimes, it's simply truth, spoken in a way that can't be denied. I looked at the folder one last time and whispered, "You wanted perfection, Jessica. Let's give them a perfect show." I closed the laptop. And with that, I knew, the next night, her lies would finally meet the light. Tomorrow, everyone will hear the woman they think they know. They say some rooms remember the truth. That night, ours was covered in warm lights and smiling faces, and waiting for a secret that would break the script. The rehearsal dinner looked like a dream. Fairy lights hung from the rafters, glowing like small stars. Tables were wrapped in linen and soft gold ribbons. Someone had placed jars of flowers by every plate. Laughter rolled across the room like music mixing with the playlist I helped build. Jessica moved through it all like she owned the night, radiant, confident, untouched by doubt. Her dress was simple, but she didn't need sparkle. She carried it in her smile. Our parents hugged. Friends clinked glasses. Every photo looked perfect. I stood near the back, one hand in my pocket, the other resting on a small speaker hidden under the tablecloth. It hummed quietly, already paired to my phone. No one noticed. Why would they? No one plans for the truth to interrupt. I watched her, and a strange calm settled over me. They saw love, I told myself. I saw the performance of a lifetime. Because once you know the lines, you recognize the act. The practiced laugh. The polite nods. The way she touched my shoulder just long enough for cameras to catch it. A waiter asked if I needed anything. Water, wine, another plate. I shook my head. I needed something else. I needed air. I needed an ending, but not yet. Not before she spoke. Not before she told everyone who she said she was. We gathered around the small stage. The DJ lowered the music. Jessica took the mic first. Everyone clapped like they were rehearsing for a happily ever after. Her voice was steady. She thanked our families for shaping us into the people we are. She talked about love, how it was made of ordinary days, patience, and trust. She turned to me and said I was her anchor, her home, her forever. People sighed. A few wiped away tears. I held back a bitter smile that didn't reach my eyes. If words could erase what I'd heard the night before, I might have believed her. But those secret messages were still echoing in the back of my mind. Every forever she promised sounded like it was meant for a stage, not a life. She ended with, to honesty, to loyalty, to us. Glasses lifted. The room glowed brighter. I clapped with everyone else. My hands felt heavy. The mic came to me. I could feel my heartbeat, calm and slow, like it already knew what I was about to do. "Thank you all for being here," I said. My voice sounded steady, normal. I looked at my parents, my mom's hopeful smile, my dad's proud nod. I looked at Ryan. He didn't move. He just held my gaze like a lifeline. I talked about the beginning. How we met. How love, at first, felt like a gift that made the world brighter. I said love only grows when it is honest. That trust is not a grand speech, it's the quiet promise you keep when no one is watching. A soft murmur ran through the room, like people were leaning closer without moving. Jessica smiled up at me from her chair, hands folded, eyes shining. She had no idea. I took a breath. "Tonight," I said, "I want to talk about honesty." My thumb found the small button on my phone. I pressed it. The speaker under the table woke up with a soft click. Then Jessica's voice floated into the room, clear, familiar, unmistakable. "He still has no idea. After the wedding, I'll tell him everything." For a moment, no one breathed. The words hovered in the air, stretching the silence thin. Cutlery stopped. Chairs stilled. The music, somewhere in the back, faded on its own. I let the room sit inside that sentence. I let them hear what I heard. I let them feel the floor shift. Then a second clip played, only a few seconds. "But enough. Don't worry, it's almost over. He believes every word." I stopped the audio. The hush that followed was not gentle. It was heavy. It hurt. Gasps cracked the quiet. A fork hit the floor. Someone whispered, "Oh my God." Someone else said nothing, but their chair scraped back. Jessica didn't move at first. Her face emptied of color. Then she laughed too loud, too quick, the kind of laugh people use when they're stalling for air. "Daniel," she said, voice thin, "that's out of context." "That's not." Her mother's hand covered her mouth. Her father stared at the table. Ryan didn't look away from me. I didn't speak yet. I let the silence do what it came to do. Finally, I lifted the mic again. My voice stayed calm. "I told you all I wanted to talk about honesty," I said. I didn't want to argue. I didn't want to accuse. I just wanted Jessica to have the last word. I turned to her. She was shaking her head, eyes glossy, reaching for me like a scene she could still correct. "I wanted you," I said softly, "to hear yourself with everyone else." Her lips parted. No sound came out. And in that stillness, I felt something inside me release, not rage, not triumph, just the weight I'd been carrying. I set the mic on the stand. No slam, no drama. Just the soft click of a decision that had already been made. I stepped off the small stage. Chairs shifted. Whispers rose like a quiet storm behind me. Hands reached, some to stop me, some to steady themselves. I moved past them all, one foot, then the next. The room stretching long and bright, and unreal dot at the doorway. I paused. I didn't look back for long. Just enough to see the life I almost stepped into, shattered, not by anger, but by truth. I walked out into the cool night. The air felt clean. Somewhere inside, someone called my name. I kept walking, because the truth had already done what I needed it to do. It stood up when I didn't. It spoke when I couldn't. Some endings don't shout. They whisper the truth, and leave you standing in the quiet. The door closed behind me, and the cold air hit my face like a reset. For a second, all I heard was the night crickets, distant traffic, the soft hum of the venue lights. Then the storm followed me out. "Daniel." "Wait, please wait." Jessica's heels scraped across the gravel. She grabbed my arm, tears streaming, breath shaking. "It wasn't what it sounded like," she said, voice cracking. "You don't understand." I was confused. I was venting. "It got messy, please." I stared at the road beyond the parking lot. The kind of quiet road you take when you don't know where you're going, just away. Confused? I said. Those weren't thoughts. They were plans. She reached for my hand. I pulled back. Just hear me out, she begged. I was scared. I felt trapped in all the planning, and Marky was a mistake. A huge mistake. I stopped it. I swear I stopped it. The sound of the party leaking out behind us, whispers, footsteps, a door creaking, filled the silence between her words. I thought about the folder, the dates, the laughter in those messages. Scared people tell the truth, I said softly. They don't record secrets. Her shoulders dropped. She tried to smile through the tears, like that could still fix it. Daniel, I love you, she whispered. I do. It landed like a line from a scene that had already ended. I took a slow breath and looked her in the eyes. No shouting left in me. No anger big enough to carry. Just the weight of the truth, finally still. Then you should have said what you meant when you thought no one could hear. The words came out quiet. Steady, final. She flinched, like honesty had its own wind. Is this it? Are you just walking away? I nodded. I'm walking back to myself. Jessica covered her face for a moment and sobbed. I didn't move. Not because I wanted her to hurt, but because I was done holding pain that didn't belong to me. I'm sorry, she said, voice breaking. I'm so sorry. Me too, I said. But not for leaving. For staying as long as I did. The door opened again, footsteps, a soft gasp. Her mother stood in the light from the doorway, hand pressed to her chest. Beside her, Jessica's father looked like he'd aged a decade in a minute. They didn't come closer. They didn't need details. The truth had already done its work. My parents stayed back too, on the other side of the threshold, as if they were honoring a line I needed to cross alone. Then Ryan stepped forward, calm as a steady shore. He didn't say much. He just placed a hand on my shoulder, firm and simple. You did what had to be done, he said. I nodded, the tightness in my chest easing a fraction. Jessica looked at him as if he might argue on her behalf. He didn't single quotes d. Her father finally spoke, voice low. Jessica. Let him go. It wasn't cold. It was the sound a parent makes when the truth demands a seat at the table. Her mother wiped her eyes and whispered, I'm so sorry, Daniel. I believed her. Sometimes the people who didn't lie still pay the price. By the time I reached my car, the whispers had turned into a current. Phones glowed under the string lights. Heads bent close. Someone asked, did you hear it? Did you record it? Someone else said, don't post anything, just don't. But secrets don't stay local, and neither does the truth. By morning, I knew there would be texts, calls, opinions I never asked for. People would pick sides like it was a sport. Clips would circulate. The perfect couple would become a cautionary tale. Jessica would disappear from social media for a while. So would I. I didn't feel proud. I didn't feel victorious. I felt clean like a window after a long storm. The room could keep the noise. I had heard what I needed to hear. I opened the car door and let the night air settle around me. The driver's seat felt different, like a place meant for leaving. When the engine started, it was the softest sound in the world. In the rearview mirror, I could see the hall warm, bright, crowded with people who didn't know where to look. Jessica stood with her parents, small and stunned under the lights. I didn't hate her. That surprised me. Hate would have been easier to carry than what I felt, relief and grief sharing the same seat. I pulled onto the road. The town moved past in slow frames, closed shops, a diner sign flickering, the church steeple pointing at a sky that didn't need my answers. I rolled down the window and let the cool air wash over me. The future wasn't clear, but at least it was honest. A mile out, my phone buzzed with messages I refused to read. Another mile, and the venue lights were gone. I drove past the park where we had taken engagement photos, past the coffee shop where I told the barista we were getting married, past every place that held a version of us that wasn't true anymore. Dotted a red light. I whispered into the quiet, I didn't win that night, but I finally stopped losing myself. The light turned green. I drove on. I pulled over by the lake on the edge of town and cut the engine. The water was dark and still, a mirror that kept its own secrets. I sat there and let the silence breathe. I thought about the boy I had been, the one who believed love could fix everything. And the man I was now, the one who knew love needs truth to live. I closed my eyes and let the ache move through me, not around me. It didn't break me this time. It just passed. My phone buzzed again. Ryan, call me when you're ready. I smiled, small and grateful. Not tonight, soon. People think revenge is about fire. But sometimes, the strongest revenge is airspace, distance, the kind of quiet where lies can't breathe. I didn't ruin a wedding. I refused to bury myself inside a promise that wasn't real. And maybe that's the lesson I was too slow to learn. If you have to hide the truth to keep love, you're not keeping love. You're keeping a performance. I started the car again, not to run, but to return to myself, to peace, to the kind of future that doesn't ask me to look away. The night didn't cheer. It didn't clap. It just made room for what was next. And for the first time in a long time, that was enough. Some storms end with thunder. Mine ended with a quiet room, a clean morning, and the sound of my own breath. I live in a different city now. The kind where the sunrise hits the rooftops before it reaches the street. My apartment is small, but it's mine. One mug on the counter, one jacket by the door, one set of keys I don't share anymore. I start my mornings slow, coffee, a walk. No playlist to impress anyone, just the birds and a beat-up pair of running shoes. I found a new job across town. It's not flashy, but it's honest work with decent people. At lunch, I sit by the window and let the light warm my hands. Peace doesn't make a sound, but you can feel it. It's steady. It doesn't ask for attention. It just shows up day after day, until your shoulders remember how to rest. Sometimes the quiet is too quiet. And I think about how things used to be, not because I want that life back, but because grief travels like weather. It passes, then it returns, lighter each time. A friend called me last week, someone from our old circle. They said Jessica moved away too. New state, new job, new everything. They paused, waiting to see if I'd ask for more. I didn't. I felt nothing hot, no anger, no rush of old hurt. Just a distant empathy, like seeing rain on someone else's street. I hope she finds a way to tell the truth to herself first, then to anyone who deserves it. But that's not my road to walk anymore. For a while, people sent me updates, screenshots, whispers, guesses. I stopped reading them. Not because I was pretending to be strong, but because I wanted to be. There's a difference between healing and hovering. One chose healing. I used to think betrayal ends your story. It doesn't. It edits it. There's the life you planned, the wedding, the vows, the song you thought you'd dance to every anniversary. And then there's the life that shows up after the truth, quieter, smaller at first, but honest enough to breathe in. People ask me what changed the most. My answer is simple. I stopped confusing comfort with love. Comfort says, stay, even if it hurts. Love says, tell the truth, even if it costs you. Trust isn't a grand speech. It's 1,000 small choices in the dark. How you talk when no one can hear. What you say when no one can see. The messages you leave that you think no one will ever play. I used to wonder why I didn't see it sooner. The red flags. The whispers. The moments that didn't add up. But I forgive that version of me. He wanted to believe. He wanted to build a life. That's not weakness. That's heart. Some nights I sit by the window and write out the things I know now. Love needs honesty like lungs need air. Boundaries are not walls. They're doors that lock for a reason. If you must hide the truth to keep someone, you aren't keeping love, you're keeping a performance. I don't hate her. I don't hate myself either. Hate would have chained me to a night that's already over. I chose release. I chose to let the truth stand without me pushing it anymore. There's a diner 2 blocks away where the waitress calls me hun. She doesn't know my story. She just knows I like my eggs over easy and extra napkins. I read on weekends. I call my parents more. Ryan visited last month, and we didn't talk about the wedding at all. We watched a game, argued about the best pizza place, laughed until the neighbors knocked. That's what healing sounds like. Regular life, showing up on time. Once, I found an old box of wedding stuff that somehow made it into the move. I set it on the kitchen table and opened it. A napkin with our initials. A ribbon. The playlist we never used. I took a breath, then another, and then I closed the box and carried it to the trash. No drama, no ceremony. Just a soft goodbye to a script that wasn't meant for me. People still ask, in careful voices, do you regret what you did that night? I don't. Revenge wasn't the point. Clarity was. Sometimes the loudest revenge is silence. Let the truth speak for itself, and it will echo longer than any promise. That became my compass. I didn't need to shout. I didn't need to argue. I needed to step aside and let the truth do what truth does. Stand. I think about the man I was at the microphone and the man I am now. Both of us loved deeply. Only one of us loved himself enough to leave. If you're listening to this, and you're standing where I stood wondering if the truth will break you, hear me, it might bend you hard. But it will not end you. It will give you back your name, your time, your mornings. I water my plants. I fold my laundry. I answer emails on time. It sounds small. It feels like freedom. I didn't ruin our wedding. I just pressed play. And that was my story. Sometimes truth doesn't need fireworks, just the courage to face it. If this story moved you, hit that like button. It tells me you want more real stories that dig deep. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the bell so you never miss the next chapter of love, lies, and redemption. Drop a comment below. Tell me, would you have played the messages or walked away in silence? Your thoughts, your stories, they're what keep this channel alive. Until next time, remember, the truth always finds its voice.